I'm Nicole Wickman, and I'm so glad you have decided to watch this little painting tutorial. I'm just going to jump right in. I'm going to be painting today on this Canva board from Canson. I like these little boards. If you've watched my tutorials before, you'll know that I paint on them quite often. They're nice and thick, and so I feel like I don't have to tape it down like I would when painting on watercolor paper. But of course, it has that sort of inexpensive quality that watercolor paper has versus painting on a stretched canvas, which is what I often do. So I'm just going to paint directly onto the board here. I'm going to grab this little filbert brush. I just grabbed this package at the dollar store, so it had like this guy and like it was just a mixed pack. They've worked really great for me, so I keep using them. Sometimes I spend a little more on brushes and sometimes I don't. I'm really kind of loosey-goosey when it comes to my supplies. I'm gonna paint, so I'm gonna be painting flowers. I'm just gonna grab, I've got a big bucket of white gesso off to the right here. I'm just gonna grab that and on my brush, and I'm just gonna sort of slop it down onto my board. Just really thick, sloppy, loose. If you don't have white gesso, you can absolutely substitute white acrylic paint in this case. I use them interchangeably. Yes, they have different qualities to them, and you may find yourself having a preference. I don't mind either, really. Just whatever I have. It's my approach in the studio a lot of times is just what's in reach? What have I got? What can I use to paint today? Because painting is just so much fun. I don't want to have to wait to go to the store, or there was times in my life, many times, where maybe I couldn't afford new supplies, so I'd work with what I got or what I had, and you know what? I learned a ton that way. So I still kind of adopt that method. So as you can see, I've just sort of covered it up. There's some thicker areas, some thinner areas. I'm gonna be straight with you. I don't have a plan. I'm just kind of rolling with it here. I've got this Naphthol red. This is a fluid acrylic. I like using fluid acrylics because honestly, it goes back to that same old thing. I find I can just take out a nice little drop, where when I use a heavy bodied, I'm always squeezing too much and ending up with a big blob of paint that I don't need. So just for that reason alone, I like the fluid acrylics. I should have mentioned the brand I'm using is Opus Essentials. It's my local art store brand. So you can use any brand and they'll work just fine. And you don't have to use the same colors even. Just use what you've got. We're just playing. So I'm just I haven't rinsed my brush. So I've got a little bit of white on there. I'm just gonna go right in and just collect some of that paint on the brush and see it turn to almost sort of like a really dark, still red, but it's a bit pinky. And let's just come in and what are we gonna do here? Let's just create some pink flowers. So we're just quick little strokes, blobs, if you will. And see how it mixes with the wet white gesso underneath. And that just gives us this lovely, these lovely lights and darks, different shades of pink without even trying. It's just blended there right on the canvas, which is great. So I'm just going to put that brush aside and grab myself a fresh brush. The one I grabbed, and I'm just committed to just grabbing whichever one. I'm not going to think about it. So the one I grabbed is a little bit smaller. So it's about a 1/2 inch. And what are we going to do with that? Let's grab, I've got this color here, quinacridone gold. There's another shade, I think that I read something weird about it that actually is different, but I don't find it to be different. There's quinacridone nickel azo gold. So sometimes I know I've had students that couldn't find quinacridone gold. Look for the quinacridone nickel azo gold in that case, and it should be pretty similar. So you'll see this color, it's sort of this butterscotchy color when it comes out, but it makes the most beautiful mixes and yellows. It's just a really cool color to have. So let's see, what if we just put it straight on to our canvas? What if I go in to sort of where the centers of those bigger flowers could be. And then, you know, maybe we just do a little bit here and there. Feeling like making just a really fun, bright, pretty floral today. So see how that just mixed a little bit with the red, and it's just really pretty. Now let's grab, this is a cooler red, quinacridone magenta. It's a favorite of mine. It's just so pretty. I always have a tube of it. I find I use it more sometimes than less others, but I love it. I'm gonna rinse my brush, I think. Use that same brush again. And I'm just gonna get a touch of that magenta on there. And I've got the yellow over here, or the gold, the quinacridone gold over here. I'm just gonna mix it. So it's mostly the magenta, but that quinacridone gold is gonna warm it up ever so slightly. And then what if we came in again and just, now my white is still super wet on there. I think I need a little bit more magenta. Because my white is still so wet, it's really mixing in, which is great in some ways. So I'm just going to kind of come out. And maybe we can actually, something I like to do sometimes is see, we've got this little blob of yellow here, or yellowy kind of color that I did there. What I can kind of do is come around it and see if I come around it with this darker color, instantly it gives it the impression of a blossom. Beautiful. All right. Now let's just grab a fresh brush. So I've got another filbert here. Now I'm going to create some sort of greenery around the outside. So I'm going to grab my quinacridone gold again. And I'm also going to grab this color here. This is Payne's Gray. It's another color I often have in the studio. People use it as a substitute for black. It's sort of a bluish gray color. I love to mix it with my quinacridone gold to create a green, and it creates just a really pretty deep green. So I'm just going to take just the tiniest drop, and I'll just get my brush and see that beautiful dark deep green it's created. I'm going to use that. So our white's still a little bit wet, but it's starting to dry in some places. So it'll be fun to see what happens here. But I'm going to kind of come around. And I'm just going to tap in. I'm making little quick flick motions. Just tap in that color wherever I feel like it. And boom, look at that. It's just starting to look like flowers. Not a crazy amount of effort. Really, the beauty of flowers is I feel like your mind wants to see them. So you could create colors and you know, without even trying, your brain will just fill in the difference, and suddenly you'll realize you have flowers. And so a little bit of my reds were mixed with my green on there. It's okay because I haven't fully mixed it. They're going to, you'll see little hints of the pink in there, and that's okay. You wouldn't want to mix these colors right together. If you did that and really mixed it, then we're going to get sort of a more murky kind of color. So just be really mindful that if you do get a little bit of that red onto your brush when you've got green on there, you're going to see how this tone here, it's a little more in the gray kind of area. And it's okay to have a little bit of that, but if you did that all over, suddenly your painting is going to start to feel a little bit more drab. And I don't know about you, but I don't think we want that. All right, so now, and actually we could have done this before, and I should have mentioned this. I really love to do what I like to call flower sandwiches. So I've put down my base layer of my petals. Now I've done some greenery. Now we're going to come back over and do some more petals. We're gonna want to let it dry in between this. And I should mention, I could have let it, and it might be a great idea for some of you to let the first layer of flowers, petals dry before doing the green. If I had done that, I wouldn't have had the areas where it mixed, because of course, if that paint is dry, it's not going to mix with what's on my brush. I don't mind. I kind of like when we get a little bit of of mud in there here and there, I feel like it makes the painting really interesting. But if you're just starting out, the secret to keeping your colors nice and vibrant is to know when to walk away and let those layers dry. If you let the layers dry, they're not going to mix with the next layer, and that way those paints will stay beautiful and vibrant. You won't get this sort of muddiness here. We get the nice vibrant green. All right, so I'm going to let this dry now, and then we'll come back in with another layer. Okay, so I gave this little blast with the heat gun, so it's mostly dry. There's a little bit where the paint is a bit thicker, where it's not completely dry. If I was to press on that, it would smudge a bit, but I'll just be really careful. I'm always trying to squeeze in taping time while the kids are at school, so if I can, I like to sort of speed it along a little bit. Ideally though, wait till yours is totally dry, because the cool thing about that is then you can, if you make a mistake, you'll be able to wipe it away, etc. As it is now, I'm just going to be really careful with mine. I thought maybe we could use a little bit. I really love the sort of orangey tones we got here. So I'm going to grab my quinacridone gold again. Just get a fresh little dollop on my canvas there. And then I'm going to grab a nice clean brush. So I just grabbed this sort of smaller, oops, dripping all over my painting, smaller, I guess it's a size 4 filbert. And I'm just going to dip it in there. And let's come over the places where I've already got that orange. Let's just give it another swoop in some of them, and just sort of little hints here and there. And see how it just amps up the vibrance a little bit? We could also do the same thing. Now this is kind of cool. The green, remember we actually use the quinacridone gold to mix the green, so we can actually use it because it's a more transparent color. We can use it to actually add some highlights to our green in places too. I don't want to use too much though. I'm going to grab, just thinking as I go here, just going to get a little bit of white onto my brush and mix it with that quinacridone gold. And look at this beautiful sort of buttery yellow we get. Gorgeous. What am I even going to do with this? I don't even know. Let's come up in here. I just know what I want it. Oh yeah, let's add some blossoms in around. Just some little bright spots. And see, like what I said, your eyes are filling it in, so it's looking like flowers without even trying. I'm not going to rinse my brush, but I'm going to grab a little bit. I've got the quinacridone gold, or sorry, quinacridone magenta. Actually, it was mixed with a bit of the quinacridone gold as well. It's already on my palette here, so let's use it. And come in, just some little touches here and there. There we go. Okay, and then maybe a little bit more white on my brush. Not rinsing it. It's one of the things I like to do is to not rinse my brush very much. And look, I mixed that little white with just the leftover on my brush, and now I've got this sort of light pinky peach color, kind of similar to what we started with. But you know what? Just a few little swoops of that. In some areas, we could come over the leaves a little bit, so it looks like those leaves are incorporated into the painting. They're growing out in amongst the flowers and not just, you can't see those layers then. All right. Such a fun little piece. And we've not used too many colors. So far we've only used 4 colors plus white. So you know what? I'm going to stick with that because I know not everyone's got a ton of color on hand. So I'm going to stick with those 4 colors. I'm going to step away for a few minutes and let this layer dry, and then we'll come back in and add some finishing touches, and we're almost done. Easy peasy. Okay, so once again, I've given it a little time to dry. Let's just go in and add a few just little finishing touches just to bring it sort of alive. So I'm just gonna grab, where's my little brush there? It gets lost in the, just gonna grab this little round brush. It's a little finer. It's got a round end on it, so it's gonna be able to, you know, do line work or spots. And I love to add little spots into my end. So I'm just gonna load up my brush with that. And now I just want to drop in, I'd love to see a little bit of a center in this flower. So I don't want it to be a perfect circle though, right? You don't see perfect circles on flowers very often. So I'm just going to drop them in these spots, just into some random places, wherever I think. I'm just going to give that one another little, and then maybe we've got a little bit up here. And because we've got a white background on this guy, I don't want to go crazy with my white. But see how just adding those little bits, it's just sort of giving those flowers some centers and really pretty. Whoops. I just went to rinse my brush in the white paint. Just gonna wipe off the excess. And then just one last little thing. Go back to my little, actually, let's do this one. Got my little filbert brush there. My green has dried a little bit, so I'm just gonna grab, remember that mixture we used? Payne's Gray with a drop of quinacridone gold. And just gonna mix that up on my brush. And I just want to come in some of these leaves, you know, you can kind of see the white through, which, you know, if you like that, and if you don't mind, then that's totally cool. But I feel like that they could benefit from just a little bit more love. And now also, because our background is totally dry, this is no longer going to mix with the white paint. So it's going to stay nice and dark, which is cool because that's going to give us some variance in that green. See how nice and dark this green is now? I don't want to do too much though. Just some little hints here and there. There we go, and just sort of taking a look back. I got my little brush. I gave it a bit of a rinse. Let's see, do I have anything wet left on here? Oh, there was green in my brush apparently. We don't want that. I'm gonna grab a different brush with no green. So it's just the same style of brush. It's a little finer. Doesn't have to be. That's just what I had in my paint water there. I'm trying to use that paint I've got on my palette rather than grabbing more. But you know what? I'm gonna have to grab one more. Remember we started off with, oh no, it was the Napthal red we started off with. Keeping things simple. Tiny little drop on my palette. Just dipped the edge of my bristles in. And then I'll go to a separate spot to mix. And just give us this nice light pink. I like this little guy down here. I just want to give him a little bit more. And actually, we could even mix more of the red in, creating more of a darker red, almost salmony. There we go. See, all of these little variances in light and dark, the amount of white that's mixed with my brush, the amount of yellow that's mixed with my brush, they all do a little bit of something to just move your eye and bring the piece to life. I didn't need to use a whole lot of paint color. I can mix those colors in different ways to achieve the effects that I wanted, which is really great because then, you know, that's just a great way to save money, I just rinse my brush, a little bit of white on there. This little center here got a little bit, I just want to give it a little, one more little layer, just so it really pops up off that page. There we go. Maybe we got a little, it's not necessarily a center, but maybe it's a center, we don't know. All right, so I am going to let this dry completely, and then I'll give it a signature, and that's that. A simple little floral painting, not too hard, and just lots of fun. You know, you pop it into a frame and you've got a pretty little piece for wherever you want to put it. Thank you so much for watching this video. I hope you enjoyed it.